Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Big Kris Live. However, tonight's episode, this is being recorded on Thursday, the 7th of January, but tonight's episode, and that's because I'm having a bit of a dispute with Facebook right now. I violated their terms again, and it wasn't because of nudity this time. It was a meme that I made. It's a big misunderstanding. The turmoil in the United States yesterday. There was that guy who was sitting on that chair, and he had his fist up in the air in Congress, and he was like, yeah. Well, I shared a meme on my Facebook page that said, O'Doyle rules. Now, that's a funny reference because O'Doyle is the bully from the Billy Madison movie who is a dick. And so I guess Facebook's bots haven't seen that movie. So they thought that I was saying that guy rules, and therefore I am now on strike 2. That's strike 2 in like 2 months.
And it wasn't even dicks either.
No, exactly. It wasn't even nudity. Like it was just
Not this time.
I don't know. I saw a picture of the guy. He looked like a dick. So it could just be an all-dick thing. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You have been great. Kris, again, thanks for the offer to be on the podcast. Have a good night, everybody.
All right. So let me introduce the panel here, the roundtable panel on the screen in the upper left-hand corner. We've got Matt McLean, return guest from the last episode. This is a carryover, something that started with our discussion. Matt McLean from Fresh Radio in Barrie. In the top right corner, a friend of mine, a lot of ours actually, and even Eric Johnson in the bottom left corner. I think you guys have like a ton of mutual friends on Facebook if you're not friends already. But Shawn Gibson from Barrie Today, also a wrestling promoter. And then I mentioned Eric as well in the bottom left-hand corner. Eric from Bullwhip Productions, and also I know him from stand-up comedy. Tours as a stand-up comedian, but also a huge wrestling fan. And he has a really cool project in the works that we're going to talk about today on the podcast. And Mark Davis, lower right-hand corner. Mark was on the last episode where I had to just pump the brakes on his fandom. He's literally within the first 5 minutes, he started talking about wrestling randomly. And I was like, hey, actually, in the new year, we've got an episode planned specifically about this. So Mark is back on the podcast. Welcome to all of you guys.
How's it going? Thanks for having us.
It's awesome.
Let's do it.
So before we jump into wrestling, and the title of this episode is, what's the fucking deal with wrestling? Okay, because I don't know anything about it. But before we jump into that, it's their job to prove to me why wrestling is cool. I believe I have the high ground here. We'll find out by the end of the episode. But off the top, I do want to take it to serious town, because the reason that I was getting some issues in Facebook land was because of the politically charged nature of these times. And the politically charged nature meant that Facebook was on super patrol, looking for problems or looking for politically charged memes. That's how I got strike number 2 yesterday, and well, the last 48 hours really in the United States. I know we're here to talk about wrestling, but you guys are all very thoughtful people. But I want to start with Mark Davis, because you, I think, for once, you're the most qualified person on the panel, Mark, because he works at CFRB 1010 in Toronto, a news talk radio station. You get a lot of news in your ear all day, every day. Mark, what's your take on the last 24, 48 hours in America?
Honestly, the past 2 days have been the longest 2 work days I've ever had. And I think we all share the same thing, where we saw that on TV and we were just in disbelief.
Yeah.
Like, if we're talking about wrestling, it was almost like a Royal Rumble of stupid people just like slamming into Congress. And I like things that, like, it was one thing that they stormed into Congress, because we had our own incident kind of like that. Remember, it was like years ago where we had that attack on Parliament, and even that like brought up our own security. They're gonna have to relook at that now. But not even that, the fact that a guy got all the way to Nancy Pelosi's desk.
Yeah.
Is that not wild?
Yeah.
He could have logged into her computer and approved everybody for $2,000 stimulus checks if he wanted to.
Yeah, they could have got that stimulus check thing through pretty quickly. Yeah.
And it's kind of weird, because, you know, there's a lot of people that are going to be behind Donald Trump no matter what. even as he exits office. But even what happened yesterday, that's turned some people around, even people that were his biggest supporters.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Also, it's so funny how this whole thing, really, Donald Trump in general, ties into wrestling. He was in he was in a couple of, like, he was part of the show for a while, wasn't he?
WrestleMania.
The WWE Hall of Fame.
Is he in the Hall of Fame?
Is he? I didn't know that.
Yes, he is in the WWE Hall of Fame, and there was actually a storyline once where he bought the TV show Monday Night Raw, and in real life, that announcement, even though it was storyline, dropped WWE stock down so far for a few days that they had to redo it right away.
Wow. And up to you in the upper right-hand corner, Shawn Gibson from Barrie Today, a member of, I guess, the print journalism world, but I guess it's a blog, online journalism world. And
digital print? Is that what you call it?
Print.
I've heard some people say digital print. Is that a real thing?
That's what they call it. Yeah, digital print.
Okay, so digital print media. Anyways, your take on yesterday.
I think we become immune to, or not immune, but we're kind of like numb to it, because there's the memes and the jokes, and every day we were wondering what Trump was going to do next. And for the last month, it's been quiet. And so we're
boring almost.
Jokes. Yeah, there's the unbelievability of it. But even to take it serious for a sec, though, I remember I said to my wife, because we've got kids that they range from 18 to like 14. So like we got 4 teens that are like in that area, and then a little baby, but that's all they know, and they think that that's normal. Like we've had to have conversations at the dinner table that said that's not what's real. They're like, oh man, you see what Trump did? It was so funny. I was like, that's not how you act. That is not how a president acts. You cannot like the U.S. or their politics or for what they stand for through their history, but that is not a presidential act, and that's not. And he should be arrested for what he incited yesterday.
Yeah, Eric Johnson, your take, my friend, the comedian's take. What's your if there's any laughs to be had?
Oh God, you know what? I've said this on shows before. My job as a comedian, I feel my job as a comedian is to make people forget about the world. Like when I do my hour, there's nothing current affairs. Like even when I was doing my shows in the middle of COVID, when I went on this little mini tour with these 50 capacity rooms, I didn't talk about masks. I didn't talk about anything. I don't know. I think it's to kind of loop this into wrestling. You know, they say in the industry, there's good heat and there's bad heat, and this is bad heat. This is.
I don't know anything about wrestling, but I know that's that. I know what that means.
Yeah. So heat. You know, my dad used to say, you know, the more heat he had, the more money he made, which is a reality. And I think the sensationalism of this world is, you know, people are tuning in. You know, the more crazy Trump is, everyone's watching CNN, everyone's watching the news, sponsorship and whatever. It's crazy. I don't even know what to say anymore. Like people, as a comedian, my job as a comedian is to stay right down the middle, not be left, not be right, see both sides and make fun of both. I'm looking around just watching the news, like literally scared. Like, I don't know I can't make anything funny about this. I hope it blows over. It's really bad.
Isn't it crazy that this is a man who has control of nukes?
Yeah. Well, they were saying that.
I heard today that the Defense Department has cut off all White House. Like they've told their staff, like, hey, if any direction comes down from the White House, you don't take it. You come to me or whoever that head person was in the Defense Department. Yeah, so they're already on top of protecting the nukes because obviously the Orange Man is having a tantrum. Eric, I love also you mentioned your dad there. We're going to talk about Eric's upcoming documentary that he's working on. We're going to talk about your dad because he was a professional wrestler.
Yeah, that's correct.
Bullwhip Johnson will put up a picture of him here on the screen. There he is, Bullwhip Johnson. We'll talk a little bit about him a little later on. And Matt McLean, top left corner, lastly, just on the whole events in the United States, your take.
So a couple things. Number one, how on earth, I would figure, especially after 9/11, a federal building in Washington, D.C. like that, you should be able to see the people coming and then run in. And in the worst case scenario, it'll be like, okay, full lockdown. And then they hit the buttons and then everything comes down and they're like, oh, shit, that was pretty close. Yeah. I don't know how they could even get in. And I noticed the people in the front, they all had like they looked like SWAT team. Like they had full tactical. They had the gloves with like the plates
militia
over the
style.
knuckles.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so like, and then once they got in, they didn't know what to do. It's like that Travolta meme where he's just
looking around his house. I don't know.
Like, what did you plan? What did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also in the I forget what it's called, the statue hall or something. It's all these pieces of art, and there's these velvet ropes. And when they stormed the Capitol, the one thing they did was they didn't cross the velvet ropes. They kept everything vandalized or anything. They kept they were orderly through this hall of statues, and then were breaking shit everywhere else.
That's great. That's a great bit. Yeah, they're anarchists, but they still respect the rules of the velvet rope.
Yeah, it's because of the amount of clubbing they do.
Yeah.
I think too, I think we should, obviously from the societal side of things is, looking at the panel, we should probably make mention that had that crowd looked a little different, there probably would have been a lot more violence and possibly more deaths.
There's a lot of that comparison going on out there too. About the various photos of how the protesters or the rioters were being dealt with.
They look like they could have been wrestling fans.
Yeah,
I'm gonna paper the place next time they do it.
I was gonna say, like an indie show. Everyone's standing around.
like it's like images you can smell. You know that?
Well, now that I've seen how lax the security is at Congress, I think I'm going to go and just see if I can walk in and use the washroom at the Pentagon. Just give it a shot. Yeah, what the fuck. Anyways, thanks, guys. I think
they're going to wrap the whole congressional district in a velvet rope. Now they know what works. That's their kryptonite.
I thought it behooved us to just talk a bit about that to stay current, because in the middle of that chaos on the news the other day, I remember tuning into Twitter and seeing a person on the fellow radio broadcaster, and they were doing a Twitter and call-in segment wrapped around what kind of old VHS tapes do you have around your house? And I was like, talk about being fucking tone deaf. You know what I mean? Like there's anarchy going on in the freest, most original democracy in the world. You may want to stow your VHS trivia for another day. That's the way I felt about it. So as much as we're here to have some laughs and get to know each other all and talk about wrestling and have you guys convince me why wrestling's great, I'm glad we had that chat off the top. So, all right. Can someone fucking explain it to me? Now that
we'll make a mark out of you yet.
Yes. So I think maybe as a fourth grader, I liked wrestling. I think there was a moment there, but my mom, again, very, very progressive, she didn't like violence. And we would spend an hour at the video store trying to rent a video. And I'd say, hey, Mom, can we rent WrestleMania? And she'd be like, no, there's just too much violence in that, And could we get Police Academy? No, there's too much nudity in that for you. There was always some reason. And I think that, she quashed any hopes of WrestleMania, along with, I think maybe fourth grade, there was some friends who were into wrestling on the schoolyard, but they didn't talk to girls and they always wore sweatpants. And I was kind of like, all right, I'm not.
Sounds like my kind of people.
Sounds like.
They sound cool. I actually wouldn't mind hanging with them.
Yeah. Sweatpants with rubber boots when it was rainy. So I was like, I don't know. And I just never got into it. And I think maybe the only cross section between sex and wrestling that I ever had as a youth was in 7th grade, where my buddy stole a porno tape from his other buddy's older brother or something, and we had it at our sleepover party. We had the porno tape and we were going to watch it. And what was it called? The Bushwhackers. Not to be confused with the Bushwhackers, the classic duo, who I do know. I do recognize the Bushwhackers.
Either way, it was a tag team. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The wrestlers always lick each other's heads. Yes.
I'm not gonna leave that artwork up on the screen for too long because
you'll get banned from Facebook again.
Fucking bots.
He's on his second strike.
I can't take 3 strikes, man.
Are you sure you want to do this?
I don't have any followers on YouTube. I can't go to YouTube, guys. This is it. I can't fuck up Facebook. That's all I got. But I see there's a lot of show and tell, guys. I see a wrestling belt behind Shawn. There was somebody flashing a VHS WrestleMania tape.
Well, you were talking about the video store. I actually found the exact tape that you were trying to rent in my basement. WrestleMania 4 on beta. It's a double beta. This is crazy.
I do remember that one.
You got Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan on the front. Now, this is the pièce de la résistance of this tape, is when you open it up, it's a Hulk Hogan pop-out. And this has been in this basement probably since this came out. And it's
live at Trump Plaza, by the way. So Trump works his way into this one.
Yeah, Coco Beware is on here, and Honky Tonk Man, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, who I've worked with a couple times. Nice guy. Ultimate Warrior, Hercules. This is crazy. I got tons of these down here in the basement, and I've never watched them.
Oh my god!
No,
I don't have a beta player.
Oh yeah, it's a beta. Oh, it's beta.
It's
cassette.
beta.
Wow.
Yeah, that's hard to come by. I have a bunch of my dad's wrestling matches on tape, like him wrestling Johnny Canine and all these people on beta tape. And Greg Oliver, who's a sports writer, reached out to me. He's like, "Do you have any tapes of Canine?" I'm like, "I have a ton, but they're on beta."
Which tapes was you looking for Canine? Was it wrestling or was it?
I've seen both sides of that. Kris, I'll tell you about this wrestler Johnny Canine before we go into everyone else's paraphernalia. Johnny Canine was the leader of the Satan's Choice motorcycle gang. My dad broke him into wrestling in the late 80s and 90s, and he was a career criminal. Like, he went to jail for blowing up a police station in Sudbury. He was accused of murdering a couple at Ancaster. He moved out to BC to clean his life up and join the UN gang there and tried to kill the Bacon brothers. And he's dead now. He moved back to Hamilton, and he was in Kingston Penitentiary. He used to get 2 phone calls a week. He would call his girlfriend, and he would call my house to talk to my dad. Once a week, I get you have a collect call from, "Hey, it's K9, Kingston Penitentiary." And I'd be like, "Dad, it's K9," and then they would just talk for hours.
Wow.
No one ever tried to take the phone away from Johnny K9. I will tell you that.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Again, I'm fascinated with these stories, Eric, because you and I have connected in a comedian sort of vibe and in a live setting, but I've never really talked to you about wrestling, and that's why I thought you were perfect to be on this podcast. And if anyone can convince me, I know it's this panel, that wrestling's not that bad, and that story was badass. I'm like, all right. I was even thinking in my head, fucking wrestling, okay, it's pretty badass. I'll
tell you. Wait, hold on. Before I want to go this story, I want to see Mark's belt that he's had propped on his shoulder, waiting for his spot.
Yeah. All right, Mark. What do you got there, bud?
It's the WWE World Heavyweight Championship.
Oh my God! Is that a real one?
It's a replica. So it's a replica. Wow. It's like the actual metal replica. So my girlfriend Jen, I love her to death.
Yeah.
My 38th birthday just passed, and I remember mentioning to her passingly that, like, even when I was a kid, I always wanted one of these. And she later told me that she was browsing through Amazon looking at these, and this is like a $400 belt. It's a $400 wrestling belt where there is very limited places where this is acceptable to bring or wear or just like hang around. And she told me that she was in front of her computer buying me this, and before she clicked the link that said buy, said to herself, "This is the stupidest fucking thing I have ever bought." but yeah, right now it just sits on the mantle in my room until I can
above the bed. He gets to become the world champion every single night, if you know.
And that's also, you guys also proved to me that those kids that were in 4th grade walking around in track pants and rubber boots, you know what? That they may not have been interested in girls then, but you guys all, well, I don't know about you, Eric, but I know all you guys are all in committed relationships and happy. Eric, how are you doing, by the way?
I get a nice girl almost every night, and then the morning.
I was gonna say, it's not necessarily one per se.
No,
with Eric.
I'm working the road. I can't get you tied down right now. I might have a kid in Sault Ste. Marie, but I'm doing all right.
Sault Ste. Marie. All right. Sorry. Anyways,
Kris, you wanted to dive just really small into the absurdity of wrestling. Davis called that a champion. What did he call it? A belt?
I'm not supposed to call it a belt. I forgot about.
Oh, there's a code. There's like you can't call it a belt.
Vince McMahon hates the word.
Yeah.
Oh.
He doesn't like calling it a belt, a strap, anything like that. No, it's a title. It's a championship. He doesn't even like title anymore.
Oh, wow.
Oh, really? Just trying to mix it up, eh? It's almost like when the Beatles were just like, all right, we're done performing, you know?
Yeah, kind of.
It's almost like Vince McMahon is not a stable human being. So
yeah.
Well, he's dying. Kris, hold on. Before we go on, I want to talk about how you keep chirping these kids in track pants and rain boots, because that's what I see you wearing every time I see you. From chirping them to you're like, actually, it's pretty comfortable, and I've been stoned most of the day.
Listen, man. Me at Lowe's on a Sunday picking up at the garden center is one thing, all right? But yeah,
I think wear that at your wedding.
Yeah, Kris got 2
Fuck it, here we go.
old bean shirts now.
All right. So also, Eric, you mentioned some of those that video cassette you have, those classic matchups like Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. I mean, I don't know anything about wrestling, but I've heard of that match. What is, in all of your opinions, the ultimate match? Is there a,
I can guess 3 out of the 4, but go ahead.
Start Me Up by the Rolling Stones, or the Alive by Pearl Jam editions of WrestleMania.
I'll do this 2 ways. I'll do my personal favorite that means the most personal to me, and then I'll do the one that makes me pop the most, and I'll explain to you what a pop is. So we don't care about the personal one. Just if you have one about Hulk Hogan, maybe you can do. No. I don't. I love Hulk, but I'm a product. So when I was a kid, wrestling, because my dad was a wrestler. He was gone most of my childhood. I really didn't even realize what my dad did until about 96, 97. I just knew he wasn't around. Like, I would go to the matches, obviously, as a kid, but I didn't really understand what he was till about 96, 97, 98. This is the start of the Attitude Era. Of the WWE. So I'm a big product of the WWE Attitude Era, which is The Rock and Stone Cold and that era. The one that makes me pop the most, which makes me the most excited, is, I believe, WrestleMania 18. It's Rock versus Stone Cold. And there was a promo that they cut for that match, and it's to Limp Bizkit My Way. And there's a whole buildup. That promo is the best wrestling promo ever cut together. When I did the Comedy Store in Los Angeles, I opened for Russell Peters, humble brag. I had to throw that in there. But before I went on, before I was backstage with headphones in, watching that promo just to get into the mood and just get in my own fucking excitedness. That match makes me pop the most. The one I hate the most, Montreal Screwjob. We'll talk about that. And then my personal favorite, that for me, it's on a personal level, is Starrcade 90, because my dad was in it. WCW Starrcade 90. It was his first big, he got put over. It was basically a squash match. My dad was Team Canada versus the USSR. And in that year, there was a lot of real heat in the world between the USA and the USSR again. So they wanted to build up this big thing. So in the grand finale was USA versus USSR. Now someone had to go down, so USSR to go through. Who's it going to be? The polite Canadians. So the Canadians went out, and basically it was a squash match. It was over in like 2 minutes. But it was in Salt Lake City. There were 17,000 people in attendance, hundreds of thousands of people watched around the world. And actually, it's a very personal moment. But JR is so green Jim Ross, the commentator, he actually mixes up my dad and his tag partner's name. Oh. So when my dad's in the ring, he's calling my dad Troy Montour. When Troy Montour's in the ring, he's calling him Bullwhip Johnson. And it just shows that JR didn't know what the fuck was going on. He didn't care. They're like, hey, we got to get these Canadians squashed and get them out of here. We got to build up our main event. That's my favorite match to watch because it's obviously so personal.
Something I will add to Eric's mention of the Limp Bizkit. What's a promo? It's like the hype-up package before you watch a UFC
It's like the trailer,
fight.
yeah. It's a YouTube, 15-second YouTube thing now.
Oh, it's like 2 minutes, this one, though.
Wow.
You feel like you are about to watch this series finale of wrestling. You feel like wrestling is about to end after this match. And with Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, the two most recognizable people in wrestling, you can't help but get hyped for that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Even though a lot of people talk shit about Limp Bizkit, like wrestling influenced a lot of people's music tastes, and it made me like Limp Bizkit.
Dude, I love Creed because of wrestling.
Yeah.
You love Creed? I would never have guessed.
Like if you watch wrestling, chances are you're into Creed, you're into Puddle of Mud.
This is where you guys are getting me fucking off the wagon there. The fucking criminal guys, I'm into this. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, fucking Creed. No, I'm out. All right. Now let's get back to the memorabilia. Shawn Gibson, what do you got there behind you? What's that belt? That what do we call it? Sorry, what's the
so we have 4 different championships in Barrie Wrestling. So we've got the women's title that's been retired type thing, but we've got the heavyweight title that's with the champion Mark Wheeler, and that's in Hamilton right now. The Three Pistols titles with Pretty Ricky, the champion in Brantford, but these are vacant, and this is just one of the 2 of the 400 North tag team titles. So I'm a big Canadiana fan, so. Yeah, so that's one half of the 400 North Tag Team Championships, which are vacant right now.
That is so cool.
So
yeah, we've got 4, well, 5 for a tag team.
So when you say it's Barrie Wrestling. That's the
Barrie Wrestling.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe you know, or maybe you don't. But if you're sourcing just one of those trophies, or what's the proper nomenclature?
Championship title, you ignorant slut.
Now he's for sure banned.
No, actually, no. We can say that. I've sworn up a storm here. But sorry. So what would I call it again? What's a real
championship?
A championship. All right. So how much would one of those championships cost? Like just the raw, like to get one made, like that one, like a blank one.
So this is a tag team one. So there was 2 ordered, and they came to I think it's like $660. Because it's very basic. The back, like there's not a lot of plates on the side. My heavyweight title was on its own was $500.
Wow.
And the Three Pistols title was, it was the Three Pistols Championship was the first one I got, and it was about $400. It was like a not foam like the toy one, but it's not as leathery as the other ones. So, they can ring you up.
Yeah. And, with Barrie Wrestling, I mean, things this past year, 2020, as they say, even though we're in 2021, the hangover is still there. What was the impact like, for you at Barrie Wrestling? The same as all other performance industries, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it was huge. I mean, March 7th, 2020 was our last show, and it was jammed. I mean, we're sold out from in the fall and the spring, like from September to April, we're pretty much sold out. And March was monstrous. It was a huge crowd, and so many plans going forward, so many ideas. We were getting into production, and just stopped. And I mean, for me, I realized throughout the summer, it didn't really affect me. Like, I mean, I was missing it, but we don't take money from the show. Like it's a whole thing I started. Don't take money from it, because that's when you get all greasy and all that as a promoter. And I was busy with the news. I mean, I was reporting the news. So
you have a full-time job.
Yeah, I got a full-time job, 300 kids. I mean, I got stuff going on. But when it got close to when we could start filming things and start doing stuff, I really hit me. I saw one company do a show outdoors, and I was like, damn it, yeah, I miss it. And so when we were able to, we filmed 2 shows before lockdown happened. But they were empty arena, no fans, no crowd. But I'll tell you, the wrestlers are taking the biggest hit. Those, like, it's what they love, and they love doing it. They don't make a ton of money off it. It's all passion. And their mental health's taking a hit for it, for sure.
Yeah, and stop me if I'm wrong here, guys, but you know, I watched, what was the Mickey Rourke? What was it Mickey Rourke, the wrestler?
The wrestler, yeah.
I just have the impression that most wrestlers don't have the greatest mental health. I don't know.
No. You know what? And I was going to say that to you as well.
Movie,
when you said we were going to come on and try to convince you, this isn't going to convince you, but one thing I'd say is there's an underlying thing with all fans and everything. It's one, wrestling appeals primarily to a low to middle income family. It's a cheap form of entertainment for people who can't afford skates and join hockey. And if that's the case, these kids are probably in single family dwellings and trying to escape their surroundings. That's the majority. I should say majority. That's definitely how I grew up, but I can see it with many people. And this is such an escape for fans and wrestlers, the fantasy world, the good guys, the bad guys. And now it's gone. And you might think, well, they got movies, but they're not into it. They want wrestling.
Yeah, they want the real thing. Yeah, I can see how any fan, like I would say beyond fans for wrestling, it's next level fanship. But any event that has fans like wrestling fans, I think that a lot of them are using it as an escape. Yeah, you're not wrong there, Shawn, for sure. Over to Matt McLean now. Matt, do you have a piece of memorabilia? Is it a Mexican wrestling mask? Because I swear to God, the 4 years I've known Matt, he's been in a Mexican wrestling mask 30% of the time. Yeah, and there it is. I knew it.
This is a promotional item.
El Freshito.
Yeah, Fresh Radio Barrie. There we go. Get the
plugs in. I didn't know Fresh Radio was a Mexican outfit.
God.
We got these for,
That's like 30% of the chorus budget right there.
And I got this bad boy, Hulk Hogan shampoo.
Oh,
wow.
And as you can see, look at that full head of hair. I mean, that's a 5 head if I ever saw it, but that's a full head of hair too.
Wow. So is that an original, like, Hulk Hogan shampoo, and you haven't opened it? Like you bought a Coca-Cola bottle in 1988 and kept it and didn't open it?
No, I got it from some crackhead on a buy and sell for $2. Sorry, alleged crackhead.
Yeah, suspected. I smelled burnt plastic when I walked to their front door.
Why do you guys have so many butter knives on the stove? Can I get my shampoo bottle now?
Yeah. Now, Eric Johnson, I saw, and good on you too, during this pandemic, we talk about how wrestling's been hit and there have been some outdoor shows, but for the most part, much like stand-up comedy clubs weren't able to open or haven't been able to open for a good portion of the last year, but I've seen you out there slugging, doing online stuff. You had a New Year's Eve thing. You've had backyard campfire stuff last summer. I thought that showed some real initiative, man. And how was the reaction to that? Like,
you know what? It's like, again, and coming to the loop all of it back into wrestling. My dad was kind of like, by any means necessary type guy. Whatever territory was booking is the territory that he lived in. Like, 7 days after my parents got married, my dad moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma, because that was the territory that he was working in. For me, the first week of March, the first week of March, I did 7 sold out shows at the Laugh Factory in Chicago. I did 450 people a night. It was insane. And I thought that 2020 was going to be my year. I got my full U.S. work permit.
Yeah.
I'm doing these sold out shows at the Laugh Factory and the Comedy Bar in Chicago.
And Eric, can I just stop you there for 2 seconds? By the way, I've known Eric since 2011. And you've just to reinforce what Eric's saying, he's getting all these awesome gigs now. But I remember when you did as many gigs, but they were to like 3 people at a laundromat in Hamilton. You know what I mean? Like,
you're right.
And that's when I did comedy with you. We were doing it together with 3 people at a laundromat.
and you've been there for the progression. It's like when people kind of see, I just, in November 1st, I'm 10 years into stand-up comedy. And for a stand-up comic, that's still very young in the game. But usually I do 150 to 200 shows a year.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was now working into the States. I was in Nashville and Atlanta, and I was booking for 2020 the Eric Johnston Wanted in 50 States tour. I was going to do all the way down into Arizona, into LA, then up to Seattle and across and back. Like I was going to zigzag the entire United States. I was prepared to live out of my car. I was going to get like
whatever it takes.
Amazing fitness gym membership and sleep and, shower at the gyms and work out and sleep in my car. I was ready to do all of that. And then I do the Chicago, the 7 sold out shows. I come home on March 15th and the border closed on March 17th. And I was like, what the fuck am I going to do now?
Yeah.
So I let things settle. There was really nothing to do in the first lockdown. But as soon as you were allowed to have backyard gatherings of up to 50 or 100 people in southwestern Ontario here, I did the Eric Johnston Campfire Comedy Tour, where I literally became a fucking clown for the summer. And in terms of, I would show up with like a speaker, a microphone, a stool, and 2 opening acts, and perform in people's backyards.
Yeah.
And I did like 15 of them. And I was in Barrie, I was in Wasaga Beach, I was Hamilton, Toronto, and Niagara Falls, and Fort Erie. And then I did a huge one. I rented out a farmer's field here in Stony Creek. I sold 100 tickets to a farmer's field and built a stage out of log fucking cabin wood and all this shit. And then that got locked down. And then I found out that Toronto, Kingston, and Ottawa, the Absolute Comedy Club that you've seen me at before, they were allowing 50 people. And I was like, okay, let's book it. I talked to the owner. He gave me 27 shows.
Wow.
I did 27 shows of 50 people. I was doing 2-3 a night just to get the people in. And then I came home, locked down again. And it's like, now you can't go anywhere. And I went, okay, fuck it. I'm going to build a comedy club in my basement. I'm going to get a logo printed with a backdrop and a microphone. And now I've been doing Zoom comedy, and I did the Zoom New Year's show. So it was just, again, by any means necessary.
Yeah.
Including Serb, this is the most money I've ever made in a year. I didn't stop working. I made regular money plus another 20K in Serb. So let's go.
Well, I think already we've demonstrated where you get that drive and that grind from. Obviously, it's from your dad. So why don't we talk a bit about the documentary you're working on, Eric? So there's a picture of your dad. We showed him earlier, Bullwhip Johnston. And there is another picture side by side with you. And is that a replica of his outfit, or is that?
No, that's the exact his ring wear outfit.
Wow.
He wore that up till his last match. His last match was with the ICW in 1999, 98. But yeah, that's so the document. I made a small today, ironically, is would have been my dad's 67th birthday.
Wow.
Yeah. So he died in 2003 when he was 49. So slightly different story. But
yeah, right.
Anyways, I've made my career off not only bringing up my career, but bringing him with me. So I wear the shirts and all my logos and stuff, and I got the Bullwhip stickers and all that stuff. Nice. I bring that on the road with me and sell that alongside of my own merch, because a lot of people who follow me know my story, and they're like, "Do you have any of your dad's stickers?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do, actually."
Nice.
Now I made a little 5-minute documentary called Chasing Footsteps. The idea of my father was a professional wrestler. He died. I wanted to keep his legacy going, but I didn't want to wrestle. So I became a stand-up comedian, and I'm never going to stop. That got a massive response. And people are like, well, what else can you do with this? So now I was supposed to be doing it again, 2020. That got pushed back. It's a documentary called Becoming Bullwhip. And it's me as a 30-year-old, somewhat successful stand-up comedian saying, you know what, fuck it. I'm going to follow in the footsteps of my grandfather or my father, and I'm going to become a professional wrestler. And I'm going to work out a match, and I'm going to go through all the training. It's going to be all real. I'm going to try to protect the business as much as I can. It's called kayfabe. I'm trying to keep the kayfabe of the business going as much as I can.
Okay.
Santino Marella and Battle Arts Academy have reached out, and they want to do some training. Stone Rockwell, a good friend of mine, also RJ City, who's a very good friend of mine. Him and I were on a TV show called Splat-A-Lot together. We've been friends since 2012. He wants to come in and be a part of it. Hamilton Pro Wrestling wants to be a part of it. And they all, and here's the thing, because I'm this comedian, all these wrestling storytellers who now, like Mick Foley, Jake the Snake,
right,
Ted DiBiase, they've all gone these storytelling shows, and they're like, who can we have open? Oh, the comedian whose dad was a wrestler. So now I have relationships with Mick and Jake and Ted. I wouldn't, if I called them, they'd be like, who the fuck is this? But I'm going to try to reach out and be like, hey, do you want to be part of this? And then all of my dad's old wrestling friends, like my dad's best friend, who he broke him to the into industry, his name's Harry Demersion. He's Harry D, the referee. And he works for Destiny, and he's also worked for Impact and all these big wrestling promotions. He wants to ref my match. So he wants to work out all the angles and stuff, and I'm gonna do it as legit as I can, and I'm gonna get my fucking ass kicked. Like I'm a big guy. I'm like 6'1", like right now I'm 240. I'm trying to get back down to 220. And
COVID.
I'm top heavy. I don't do my fucking legs, so I'm gonna get my ass kicked. But I'm gonna work it. This is not gonna be like some bullshit doc where like some guy comes in and learns 3 moves and they make a whole documentary on it. I'm kind of going to go the route of David Arquette. David Arquette came back and just did a documentary called "You Cannot Kill David Arquette," and it was co-starring my friend RJ City. Anyways, he went through the proper training and like put a ring in his backyard, and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to do it the same way. So there's already been interest from Amazon. And I haven't touched anything. I haven't trained. No cameras have rolled. I shot 1 promo, and then those.
Just the concept is getting some attention, right?
Because wrestling is hot, but it's got an interesting story because stand-up comedy is hot right now with Netflix and stuff. So you got those 2 worlds coming together, plus the idea of the emotional angle, my dad dying, and you touched on it before, and I can openly say my dad died of alcoholism.
Wow,
it's a tragic death of a lot of wrestlers. In the wrestling, they say two vices make you immortal. 1 will kill you. Mm-hmm. So, my dad was just an alcoholic. He didn't do roids. He didn't do drugs. He didn't do any of these things. And he died of liver failure. But these guys who are pumping steroids and drinking and doing drugs and doing speed and doing coke, these guys are like 70 years old, just new hearts and just still going. Finding Ted DiBiase found Jesus, and they're still alive. But there's a big emotional angle of it. And I think it's just going to be life-changing. My mom is very upset. My mom is very against it, which I think will be a great angle for the documentary. But yeah, I'm going to be a bad guy. I'm going to try to get as much heat as I can, and I'm going to wrestle whoever wants to wrestle. And then, my biggest issue is my mom thinks that she thinks I'm going to continue to be a professional wrestler for the rest of my life.
Oh, she's got the fear, right? I get it.
Yeah, and I'm like, Mom, I'm 30. Like, I'm just,
I will just say that, Eric, like while you were talking, and not to say I wasn't paying attention, but yeah, I pulled up WWE Network and pulled up Starrcade 1990 and pretty quickly found your dad's match in that tag tournament. So yeah, I'll definitely check that out. And if anybody,
it's the Pat O'Connor Memorial Cup, I think it's called.
Yeah, and if anybody's got WWE Network, I'd just look up Starrcade 1990, and it's pretty easy to find.
Yeah, cool. Just DM me your user account and password.
Matt does not.
R.I.P. Bullwhip.
He doesn't got $13.99
a
month.
Somebody does right now. We're all screwed.
Eric, you mentioned something, a word that I'd never seen spoken or written before, and it came up in our group chat with the 4 or 5 of us. Multiple times you guys were making jokes or riffing on it, and I was like, I have no idea what this is. Kayfabe? What is?
I know
like
the
a pop
terminology,
group.
but I was talking too much, so someone else can take this one.
It sounds like a pop group from North Korea.
Kayfabe.
What is it? Anyone? Who's up?
Okay. Kayfabe is the imaginary world that wrestling lives in where everything is real.
Oh, it's the Marvel universe.
It's the canon. It's everything that is happening is real. Which is why when you hear the phrase breaking kayfabe, that's somebody breaking the 4th wall.
If you see the Undertaker bumming a smoke off a fan, man.
Yeah.
Like the wrestlers would say it too. I heard it when I was a kid. When I was really young, I knew nothing. I didn't know anything about it. But then when I got older, I was like, oh, that's what he meant. But like 2 wrestlers would be talking and getting along, and a good guy and a bad guy. And if a fan came by or somebody, they'd just like kayfabe like real quick. And I heard that at Maple Leaf Gardens one time. And I didn't know. I thought it was a funny word. And then when I got older, I was like, oh, they were probably just chit-chatting when I walked by. So
okay. So it's like at medieval times, you don't want to see the Black Knight talking to the Yellow Knight.
There you go.
Yeah, they got to be enemies. Okay.
You know what? Wrestling is actually a lot like medieval times. If you really
actually, and
dinner and tournament. No, kayfabe actually comes from carny speech. A lot of wrestling comes from the carnival and the sideshow because wrestling started in sideshows in the circus in the 20s and the 30s. They're feats of strength. A lot of the speech was kayfabe, and kayfabe actually came from the imaginary world of like that the games were real and everything in the circus was real. And in wrestling, it is exactly that. And there's a legendary, all the guys on the panel know what it is. Chris, I'll explain it to you. Yeah. There was a legendary kayfabe break in the late 80s when Hacksaw Jim Duggan was seen riding in a car with the Iron Sheik. The Iron Sheik was a notorious heel at the time, bad guy. And Hacksaw Jim Duggan was a major face at the time, a good guy. They were in a car together. They got busted for drunk driving and cocaine possession. That wasn't even the main part of the story. The main part of the story was that they were in a car together, and it broke kayfabe. And then that's what everything's fake. And there's a great documentary. Well, there's a great series of documentaries out now called The Dark Side of the Ring. And they talk about David Schultz, who was a legendary wrestler, who's my dad's actually wrestled in Moscow Mania at Maple Leaf Gardens. And my friend Kyle Andrew Skinner, he's an actor. He played Dr. David Schultz in this documentary. Anyways, they were all about protecting the business and protecting the kayfabe of the business. And John Stossel, NBC reporter, tried to say, "Oh, this is all fake." And then David Schultz slapped him on live TV to protect kayfabe. And John Stossel sued the WWE, and he was excommunicated. Vince excommunicated him, and it ruined his career, all because he was trying to protect kayfabe.
It's crazy.
Wow. You said the right thing, Eric. I think Eric just nailed it. You need to start, Chris, you need to start watching Dark Side of the Ring to check it out. You don't like wrestling, but these are documentaries, and there's a dark side to the stories. That would hook you. I think you'd love those.
Yeah. I do like the danker side of things, and I think that could actually probably
in
hook
weed
me
and in life.
And it goes to show as far as like, I was gonna say, it goes to show as like, especially back in that day, because today nobody's trying to pretend wrestling is real anymore.
Yeah.
Nobody. But way back then, that was trying to keep the illusion up because that's how you made money. And in order to protect the business, John Stossel got slapped by David Schultz so hard that to this very day, he is still deaf in one ear.
Yeah.
You also have like some other people on the panel might be able to explain this a little bit better or know about it. But when Big Van Vader went to jail in Kuwait because a news reporter pressed him about it, and on live TV shoved him over in his chair. Now, Big Van Vader is being interviewed with The Undertaker, and here is this big, gigantic man with a mask on, with a reporter by the scruff of his throat, and The Undertaker's just sitting back there chewing tobacco, being like, "I'm not going to jail in Kuwait. I'm just going to sit back here." So that's like a big difference between what professional wrestling or kayfabe was in the 1980s, and even to an extent in the 1990s, versus what it became in the later 2000s.
The Limp Bizkit, it was like Limp Bizkit forward. Everyone accepted.
Yeah, well, no, the reason why kayfabe was broken in the biggest way is because Vince McMahon found out that he would get tax breaks if he called it sports entertainment and not sports. If he called it entertainment thing, he had to go to Congress and say, "This is all fake. It's an entertainment. It's a soap opera. Give me tax breaks." And then he did.
Like even back in the day, you used to have a license to wrestle. You used to have to answer to athletic commissions, kind of similar to what UFC or any MMA promotion does today. And by Vince McMahon coming out and saying, "This is just an entertainment show. It's like a circus," he wouldn't have to abide by any of that.
Right.
And that was a big thing too.
I wish I knew that was going to come up.
Sorry, Eric. The pandemic recently. So here's a funny thing. When this all happened and the government laid out, okay, this is what you can do and who can do what. I mean, I think I heard every promoter go with me online and scroll down to see. And it said for sports, and it had in brackets wrestling and judo, that's outlawed. You can't do that. And that's like, okay, well, that's amateur. That clearly means amateur wrestling. When it got to the theater part, we realized we didn't know where we were. Are we in the sport? Are we in the theater? Because it's just the way it was worded. So it was funny. All of us were joking with each other about how for years when someone would say, you guys, you're not athletes. Like, what are you talking about, man? This is athletic. This is a sport. And now we're like, no, it's theater.
Athletes. We're not athletes at all.
It's all entertainment, Mr. Ford. We can wrestle. It's fine.
Let's jump into the theater of it all. That's a question I have. Does any of these storylines ever lose you guys? Have you ever looked at one of these storylines and like, no, that's too much? Like what's his name in the U.S. Congress the other day, just being like, yep, I'm out. Like Lindsey Graham, that's right. They had him on TV. He was just like, yep, I can't go there with you. I'm against this. Like he turned on Trump on live TV. Like
before anyone says anything, I will just say all wrestling fans do is complain about every storyline that has ever happened at any point in time.
Internet is the worst thing to happen to wrestling. It's
ridiculous. I bet. Yeah. So
I don't know. The Katie Vick was a little rough.
What was that?
We need to save that one for its own thing. You can't just drop Katie Vick on him now.
Katie Vick was a lovely woman, Chris. Don't worry about it.
But I don't know. Like,
I remember China.
I would compare it to any other show like Game of Thrones or Walking Dead, where you complain about story developments in that show, about character deaths, about a character going to shit, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think for me, after my dad died in 2003, and then after I was kind of not over wrestling, it's interesting. I've never really been on the side of wrestling as a mark that they're called. A mark is someone who is fully committed, thinks it's real, even though they know it's not. They follow the storylines, they follow the wrestlers at every match. And I think marks make the world go round. I think without marks, there would be no wrestling industry. And then there's another term called a smark. Someone called they're a smart mark. They know more. They know more about the angles. They know more about the illusion of it, but they still are a mark. I feel like I've approached the wrestling world as a worker because I'm the son of a third generation worker. And I'm also in the entertainment industry. I've been an actor since I was 6 years old. I've been a stand-up comedian since I was 20. I kind of look at it like that. Now, after 2003, when my dad died, I took a break from wrestling. It was hard for me to watch, but I feel like that kind of 2004 to like 2010, 11 was kind of a little bit of a dark time in wrestling. They had Eugene, who was a wrestler with mental deficiencies, and they brought a midget wrestler back, and he Hornswoggle.
Hang on a second. No, they did not have a special needs.
Special needs. That's the word I was looking for.
Special needs wrestler. I don't know what the 2021 nomenclature is. It changes all the time, but I'm going with special needs. They had a special needs wrestler.
Yes, and that wrestler. Well, not pretending to be, but in character, his character was.
That's even worse.
I know. He
went full R-word.
I know, and that character might not fly today. But here's the thing about the special needs wrestler named Eugene, was that while looking stupid sometimes, he was portrayed in a very positive light. In fact, he was portrayed as superhuman. Like he comes out and he's scratching his hair, and then he gets in the ring and he's just kicking the ass of like Triple H and all these other wrestlers. And the real guy who played Eugene, his name is Nick Dinsmore, who was like a very intelligent man, said that he actually got fan mail saying, "Hey, thank you for representing like my son who has problems." Right. He got a lot of positive feedback, but he also, as you'd imagine, got a lot more negative feedback.
Not good heat.
I would say that was like just slightly off the woke mark, it was
preemptively woke.
Yeah, preemptive and just not quite there yet, all right, so what about the rest of you guys? Is there another moment, another storyline that really grabs you as just being over the top? Or
I don't know if one grabs me as being
outrageously dumb.
Yeah.
Okay, then we got to talk about Katie Vick now. There's nothing else we can do. So who wants to jump on explaining Katie Vick to Chris? I recommend.
You guys seem very passionate about it. I'll let you take
No, Eric, you're a stand-up comedian. I feel like you could put this to the best.
You know what? I actually don't know much about it, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
I feel like you guys are like arguing over who's going to sing Wonderwall at the campfire. Yeah. Like, who's going to fucking sing this thing again?
It was a gimmick. The Undertaker, the Undertaker.
Yeah.
Kane. It was Kane.
No, I know, but I didn't know if you know Kane. So the Undertaker's brother, Kane, the storyline was that Katie Vick was a body that he was having sex with.
Okay.
And it didn't last. They didn't keep it going very long. How long did it go? How long did it?
So it was 2 or 3 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
It was an entire month. So Triple H, who is this wrestler, comes out and says, "Kane, I know a secret about you, and I'm going to tell the whole world unless you beat me in this match." And then Triple H just decides, you know what, I'm gonna come out anyway and say it. And he says, "I know what you did to Katie Vick in high school. You got in a car accident with your girlfriend Katie Vick, and she died next to you. And the only thing that you could think to do was fuck her dead body." So
No.
So, and then he says, "But guess what? I have footage of it. I have footage of it, and I'm going to show the whole world next Monday night." Next Monday night comes around, and Triple H says, "I have the footage of Katie Vick, and I will show it right now." And cut to not Kane, but Triple H in a funeral home, wearing Kane's mask. There is a mannequin in a cheerleader outfit in a coffin, and he proceeds to dry hump this fucking mannequin on live, not national, but international television, and the storyline just ended for some reason.
Oh, I wonder why. They pulled
They pulled
the plug.
Now, here's the thing I will tell you. In reality, Triple H said this in a documentary. They filmed this in a real funeral home while actual funerals were happening next door.
Oh,
so it was real embarrassing for him when people accidentally walked into the wrong room.
Oh my God.
And that's what they saw.
Wrestling.
I don't know if you break kayfabe in that moment. It's all work.
Now
it's all
I get
work.
it.
She's a mannequin. It's a work.
Now I get kayfabe. That was hilarious. I finally get it. I finally understand. Guys, we're going to have to wrap this up. I love having this chat tonight. This was great having you all on, and you are all friends of mine, and welcome back on the podcast in any capacity, non-wrestling capacities as well. You're all thoughtful and awesome people.
But do we have you, though? That's the question before you wrap up. Will you watch
those documentaries?
We'll give you Starrcade 90 because that's a good one for me.
Sure.
I gotta show you that promo because you're gonna pop. Popping is getting excited.
I feel like when we had dry humping a mannequin in a coffin,
we lost him a little bit there.
I think that should have grabbed you. That should have.
Well, I do want something that I can watch with my wife on a Monday night. You know,
I think to wrap this up, I think as soon as the WWE started cutting to commercials in the middle of matches, that's when I was like, all right, this is too much of a business. And if you want to watch real wrestling right now, and I'm just now getting into it after having multiple wrestlers tell me that I have to watch it, is AEW is fantastic. It makes you feel that original feeling that you had in that Attitude Era, or even the early 90s. That's Chris Jericho's promotion. I think people are moving away from the WWE and moving into the AEW and the Impacts and all that stuff. And there's some great Canadian guys who are getting over in the States in those places. So I think it's wrestling in an ending note, because I know you're trying to wrap.
It's okay. Yeah.
It's more than just the matches. It's the entertainment for all of us, and it's the storylines, but it's the athleticism. It's a lot of things, and it's just fun, man. It's just fucking fun.
You go and get into it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing better than a live match. So when Barrie Wrestling starts up again, you have to go. And
I literally feel like the best way for him to get into it is if he goes to a match and
you gotta go to a live show.
Yeah, you gotta see a live match.
That'll bring you to Barrie Wrestling.
So, that was
get you in the ring.
That was my fallback position. Was all right. I'll go to a show like that. So yeah.
And when I start working, you can come to one of my shows.
Okay.
We're gonna book Eric too.
Yeah, I was gonna say I gotta do a little circuit. I can't just work one match. I gotta do.
Right. We'll get you and RJ together.
That's right.
Nice. All right. Well, I'm glad I can connect everybody here together too on that note as well, and I'm really glad that all you guys are so passionate about your thing. And I'm catching on to the mystique, at least certain parts of the mystique, And I really loved chatting with you again. Shawn Gibson from Barrie Today and Barrie Wrestling. For sure, keep me up to date on when the next show is, especially if Eric is there's gonna be would you call that
some crossover?
Crossover, yeah.
And I won't get double crossed, I can tell you
Yeah.
And Matt McLean, of course, Fresh Radio Barrie, and Mark Davis from 1010 CFRB Toronto with, what is it, Mad Dog Michaels? Or does he call himself Mad Dog anymore?
He calls himself J Mad Dog Michaels along with Ryan Doyle.
Ryan Doyle. Okay, awesome. You can hear Mark sometimes on that program. Mostly you can hear his fingers going beep, boop, boop, beep, boop, boop,
Yep.
pressing buttons for those guys. All right, everybody, thank you for tuning in to Big Kris Live. Not live, but you can catch it, as always, on YouTube, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and the Dean Blundell Podcast Network at deanblundell.com. Thanks again, everybody.
Yeah.